is this playing out in Myanmar? You have an economy that was virtually closed until 3 years ago. We were talking earlier, and you said that there's an acute understanding on the ground there that smartphones are not just cell phones, but they're the link to the internet.
The growth has been explosive. So these three telcos have been competing against each other for less than 12 months. And 12 months ago, you had about 5 million mobile phone users in Myanmar. And today, we have about 27, 28 million active SIMs in the market. So just incredible demand. And I think what is really interesting to audiences outside of Myanmar is that Myanmar is going straight to smartphones. So Myanmar's connectivity revolution is happening at a time when the cost of these devices has fallen to such an extent that even in a relatively poor country like Myanmar, people can afford to buy a smartphone. And so that is that's incredible. So these new telcos are reporting that about 80% of users on their network are on smartphones. So Myanmar is coming online, and it's coming online via mobile, and it's coming online via smartphones.
So could you explain how your lab comes into this? So in a sense, my impression is that you're trying to foster a startup culture and to educate, especially the young people there, to do things that perhaps the market isn't. And you have some pretty prominent backers.
We have a 6,000 square foot space in the heart of downtown Yangon, overlooking the beautiful historic buildings and looking up at the Shwedagon Pagoda. And we're using that space to run hackathons, to run workshops, meetups, seminars. Anyone who's visiting Myanmar who in any way is related to tech and innovation, we grab them and bring them into Pandya, because what we're really trying to do is we're trying to help this digital leapfrog that people have talked about in the context of Myanmar so much. How can we help this digital leapfrog happen faster?
Your lab is actually trying to tackle some things that the market isn't getting to in Myanmar. Can you explain your approach?
In other developed markets, we just kind of take for granted. Everyone kind of understands what the lean startup model is, and people know about design thinking and what an angel investment is and those kinds of things. And a lot of the talent that we see is largely self-taught. And so one of the things that we're trying to do at Pandya as we try to expand the pool of talent is sort of just teach people some of the tools and methodologies that perhaps the rest of us take for granted, just because it's so sort of ingrained in our tech culture now.
Are there interesting patterns that we can learn from?
But it's not just buying a phone, as you were saying earlier. It's you're buying a media device, and so Facebook now has more than 5 million users in Myanmar, and they're not all young people. They're mostly young people, but they're not all young people. And Viber is the dominant messaging app in Myanmar, and they have well in excess of 10 million. If you talk to the telcos about the most visited sites, they'll tell you that a good chunk of the top 10 are video sites. And so I think one thing that's really interesting as I listen to the conversations today is just how many of the topics that we're talking about here at a regional level are actually really pertinent in Myanmar, because we're having the same discussions about video and apps and social networking and other sorts of things.
So Myanmar must be one of the purest examples we've had in history, I guess, of going from zero to almost 180.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think McKinsey has done some studies on this, and I think Vietnam managed to go from like single-digit mobile penetration to 3/4 of the country in like 5 years. I think that was the previous record for like rapid penetration, and I think Myanmar's on track to beat that. So it is not every day that you have a country of 51.4 million people come online sort of almost overnight, but that's pretty what we're seeing in Myanmar.